I thought I was being the responsible son when I opened that credit card. Mom needed emergency heart surgery, and our family had always struggled financially since Dad passed away 2 years ago. The hospital payment plan still left us short $3,000, so I applied for a basic credit card with a $100 limit just to help bridge the gap. 4 days later, I was scrolling through social media during my lunch break when Jessica's photos hit my feed like a slap in the face. My sister was lounging on a pristine Hawaiian beach cocktail in hand designer sunglasses reflecting the crystal blue ocean. When I called her asking where she got money for this luxury vacation, she smirked through the phone and said, "Thanks to your credit card. Don't worry, I only spent $100,000. I laughed and said my card only had a $100 limit. "Did you check the name?" she asked. That's when Mom walked in holding my gold premium card. The drive to Presbyterian St. Joseph Hospital felt like traveling through quicksand. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles had turned bone white. The gold card Jessica had waved at me bore my name in raised letters, but I'd never seen it before in my life. My basic Visa with the measly $100 limit was still sitting in my wallet untouched and innocent. I found Mom propped up in her hospital bed, looking frail and exhausted. The cardiac monitors beeped steadily beside her, and tubes snaked from her arms to various machines. Her silver hair was disheveled, and her usually bright brown eyes seemed clouded with worry. I pulled the uncomfortable plastic chair closer to her bedside and sat down heavily. "Mom, we need to talk about this credit card situation." I began trying to keep my voice steady. Jessica showed me a gold card with my name on it. I never applied for anything like that. Patricia's face crumpled, and tears began streaming down her cheeks. "Tyler, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how else to handle everything. The medical bills, the mortgage payments, I've been behind on all the expenses since your father died." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "What are you talking about? What mortgage payments? I thought you owned the house outright." She shook her head slowly. "Your father took out a second mortgage 3 years before he passed. The cancer treatments weren't fully covered by insurance. We never told you kids because we didn't want you to worry. After he died, I couldn't keep up with the payments, working part-time at the grocery store. The room felt like it was spinning. Everything I thought I knew about our family's financial situation had been built on lies. So what happened to the house? I lost it 8 months ago. I've been renting a small apartment across town, but I was too embarrassed to tell you and Jessica. You've been working so hard to build your career, and I didn't want to be a burden." My chest tightened. "Mom, you should have told me. I could have helped." I tried to handle it myself. When I needed the heart surgery, I knew there was no way I could pay for it. I remembered that your credit score was excellent because you'd mentioned it when you bought your car. So I went to the bank and applied for a premium credit card listing you as a co-signer. Your income and credit rating qualified us for a $250,000 limit. The words hit me like a physical blow. You used my information without asking me. I was desperate, Tyler. I thought I could manage the payments myself, maybe use the card just for the medical expenses. But then Jessica found out about it. How did she find out? She's been helping me with paperwork since the surgery, going through my mail, organizing my bills. She must have seen the card when it arrived. I gave her my PIN so she could pick up my prescriptions, and I guess she memorized the number. I felt sick to my stomach. Mom, do you understand what this means? My name is on a credit account with a $250,000 limit that I never agreed to. My credit score. My financial future. Everything is tied to this card now. Before she could respond, Jessica breezed into the room, carrying shopping bags from expensive Honolulu boutiques. She was glowing with a perfect tan, her blonde hair highlighted by the sun, wearing a flowing white dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She set the bags down and smiled brightly at both of us. "I brought you some beautiful shell jewelry from Maui, Mom. And Tyler, I got you a vintage Hawaiian shirt. Isn't it thoughtful of me to think of you both while I was relaxing in paradise? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hospital floor. Thoughtful. You stole my identity to fund your vacation. Jessica rolled her eyes dramatically. Oh, please don't be so dramatic. It's just money. Family helps family, right? Besides, Mom needed this surgery, and I needed some time to decompress from all the stress of taking care of her. It's not like you were using that credit limit anyway. Because I didn't know it existed, you committed fraud, Jessica. Fraud is such an ugly word. I prefer to call it resourcefulness. And technically, your name is on the account, so it's not really stealing. I turned to Mom, hoping she would understand the severity of the situation. Mom, you need to tell her this is wrong. My career depends on having clean credit. I work in IT for government contracts. This kind of debt could cost me my job. But Mom just looked tired and overwhelmed. Can't we all just try to get along? I'm still recovering from major surgery, and all this fighting is making my chest hurt. Jessica immediately rushed to Mom's bedside, playing the concerned daughter. Don't worry, Mom. Tyler's just being selfish about money. He makes good money now with his fancy computer job. He can afford to help his family. I stared at both of them in disbelief. Jessica was manipulating the situation perfectly, making me look like the villain for being concerned about identity theft and financial fraud. Mom was too vulnerable and medicated to think clearly about the legal implications. I'm not being selfish, Jessica. I'm being realistic. Do you have any idea how much $100,000 is? That's more than I make in 2 entire years. Jessica shrugged casually. Then I guess you'll need to work harder or get a better job. Mom raised us to take care of each other, and this is how family works. I felt trapped between protecting my financial future and maintaining relationships with the only family I had left. As I looked at Mom's pale, worried face and Jessica's defiant smirk, I realized this was just the beginning of a much larger problem. The next morning, I called the credit card company from my apartment in downtown Denver. My hands trembled as I waited on hold, surrounded by the modest furniture I had bought piece by piece over the past 3 years. The automated system finally connected me to a customer service representative named Carol. Good morning, this is regarding account number ending in 7492. I need to review recent transactions. I'll be happy to help you with that, Mr. Johnson. Let me pull up your account. I see you have a gold premium card with us. Would you like me to go over recent activity? My stomach dropped as Carol read through months of charges I had never made. The Hawaii trip was just the tip of the iceberg. Starting 3 months ago, there were charges at exclusive spas in Cherry Creek, designer clothing stores, in downtown Denver, expensive restaurants in Aspen, weekend trips to Las Vegas, luxury hotels in Vail, and premium beauty treatments at upscale salons. The total current balance is $123,417, Carol informed me cheerfully. I nearly dropped the phone. I'm sorry, did you say 123,000? Yes, sir, that's correct. Your minimum payment this month is $3,100 due in 12 days. After hanging up, I drove straight to Jessica's apartment complex in the suburbs. She lived in a luxury building with a doorman and valet parking, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Her salary as a part-time yoga instructor couldn't possibly cover rent in this neighborhood. I found her lounging by the building's rooftop pool, wearing a designer bikini and enormous sunglasses, sipping what looked like a $20 smoothie. She didn't seem surprised to see me. I was wondering when you'd show up, she said without looking up from her magazine. Did you talk to the credit card company? I hope you thanked them for their excellent customer service. Jessica, this has gone way too far. You've spent over $120,000. The minimum payment alone is more than my monthly salary. She finally looked at me over her sunglasses. And your point is what exactly? I sat down heavily on the lounge chair next to her. My point is that you need to stop spending money that isn't yours, and we need to figure out how to pay this back before it destroys both our lives. Jessica laughed, a sound completely devoid of warmth. Our lives? I think you mean your life, Tyler. Because I'm doing just fine. How can you be fine? You don't make enough money to sustain this lifestyle. Maybe I found new sources of income that you don't know about. Something in her tone made my blood run cold. What kind of sources? Instead of answering directly, Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. I've been keeping in touch with Mom every day since her surgery. She tells me everything about her recovery, her medications, her emotional state, and I've been sharing with her how worried I am about your attitude toward family obligations. The messages made my heart sink. Jessica had been systematically feeding Mom information designed to make me look selfish and uncaring. She had told Mom that I was angry about the medical expenses, that I resented having to help with family finances, and that I was considering cutting off contact if they couldn't pay me back immediately. None of that is true, I said. Truth is relative, Tyler. What matters is perception, and Mom perceives you as someone who values money more than family. That's manipulation, Jessica. I call it family management. See, here's what you don't understand about our situation. Mom is vulnerable right now. She's scared, she's in pain, and she's dependent on us for emotional support. If I tell her that you're threatening to report me to the police, or that you're trying to get me arrested while she's recovering from heart surgery, what do you think that stress will do to her condition? I felt the blood drain from my face. You wouldn't do that. Wouldn't I? Mom's cardiologist said that emotional stress could trigger another cardiac event. Are you really willing to risk killing our mother over money? Jessica stood up and gathered her things, preparing to leave. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to accept responsibility for the credit card debt. You're going to make the monthly payments without complaining, and you're going to stop harassing me about my spending choices. In return, I'll make sure Mom believes you're a loving, supportive son instead of a greedy, selfish person who abandoned his family in their time of need. And if I refuse, Jessica smiled coldly. Then I'll tell Mom that you came here today and threatened me. I'll tell her that you said if she doesn't control me, you'll have me arrested and she'll lose both her children. I'll tell her that you said her medical problems are too expensive and you can't afford to help anymore. I've already drafted the text messages to send to our aunts and uncles explaining how cruel you've become since Dad died. She showed me her phone screen where she had prepared several messages that would paint me as a heartless son who abandoned his sick mother and attacked his grieving sister. The messages were carefully crafted to sound believable and emotionally devastating. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting our family from unnecessary drama. You have a good job, a steady income, and excellent credit. You can handle these payments. I'm just a part-time yoga instructor trying to find herself. Who do you think family members will sympathize with? As Jessica walked away, I realized she had trapped me in an impossible situation. If I reported her to the police, she would convince our dying mother that I had chosen money over family loyalty. If I didn't report her, she would continue spending until she bankrupted both of us. But the worst part was the slow realization that Jessica wasn't just irresponsible or selfish. She was calculating, manipulative, and completely ruthless. She had turned our mother's medical crisis into an opportunity for financial exploitation, and she was using Mom's vulnerability as a weapon against me. Sitting alone by that pool, watching Jessica disappear into the luxury building I was now indirectly paying for, I understood that I wasn't just dealing with credit card fraud. I was dealing with someone who had declared war on our family, and she was using love itself as her primary weapon. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my cubicle at Cyber Defense Solutions, trying to focus on a network security audit, when my supervisor, Marcus, walked over. Marcus was a straightforward guy in his 40s, former military who had always appreciated my work ethic and technical skills. He usually had a relaxed demeanor, but today his expression was serious. Tyler, I need you to come with me to conference room B. HR wants to speak with you. My stomach immediately tightened. In 3 years at the company, I had never been called to meet with human resources. I followed Marcus down the hallway past the break room, where my coworkers were discussing weekend plans, completely unaware that my world was about to collapse. Inside the conference room, I found Sandra Martinez from HR, a professional woman in her 50s, with silver hair and kind eyes that looked genuinely concerned. Beside her sat David Chen, our corporate security officer, a serious man in his 30s who handled background investigations and security clearances for our government contracts. "Please have a seat, Tyler," Sandra said gently. "We need to discuss some information that came up during your background check renewal." David opened a manila folder and pulled out several documents. "Tyler, as you know, your promotion to Senior Systems Administrator requires an upgraded security clearance. During the routine financial review, we discovered some concerning changes to your credit profile." My mouth went dry. "What kind of changes?" "Your debt-to-income ratio has increased by over 400% in the past 3 months. You now carry a debt load of over $120,000, which represents a significant security risk for someone with access to sensitive government systems." Sandra leaned forward. "Tyler, we want to help you understand the situation. Financial distress can make employees vulnerable to bribery, extortion, or other security threats. It's not personal, it's policy." "I can explain the debt," I began, but David held up his hand. "The explanation doesn't change the security implications. According to federal guidelines, any employee with unsecured debt exceeding twice their annual income cannot maintain security clearance for classified projects." Marcus, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "Tyler, I've put you in for a $30,000 raise with this promotion. You're one of our best analysts. But if you can't get security clearance, I can't move you into the senior position." The room felt like it was closing in on me. What are my options? David consulted his paperwork. "You have 72 hours to either pay down the debt to an acceptable level or provide documented evidence that the debt is being resolved through a formal payment plan with realistic timelines. And if I can't do that," Sandra's expression grew more sympathetic, "we would have to suspend you pending investigation. If the debt remains unresolved, after 30 days, company policy requires termination for employees who cannot maintain required security clearances." I left the meeting feeling completely defeated. 72 hours to resolve over $100,000 in debt, or lose the job I had worked 3 years to build. The promotion I had earned would disappear, along with the salary increase that could have helped me manage the payments Jessica had forced upon me. That evening, I met my girlfriend Amanda at our favorite coffee shop near her apartment. Amanda was a nurse practitioner at Denver General Hospital, smart and level-headed, with shoulder-length brown hair and green eyes that always seemed to see right through people's facades. We had been together for 2 years and had started talking seriously about engagement and buying a house together. I explained the entire situation to her, from Mom's surgery to Jessica's theft to the ultimatum at work. Amanda listened without interrupting, occasionally reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "So let me understand this correctly," she said when I finished. "Your sister committed fraud using your identity. Your mother is either unable or unwilling to stop her, and now your career is in jeopardy because of debt you never agreed to take on." "That's exactly right." Amanda was quiet for several minutes, staring into her coffee. "Tyler, I love you and I want to help. We have $18,000 saved for our engagement ring and house down payment. I could lend you that money to help with payments." The offer made my chest tight with emotion. "I can't take your savings, Amanda." "It's not just my savings, it's ours. We're planning a future together. But if I take that money and Jessica keeps spending, we'll lose everything. Our engagement plans, our house dreams, all of it." Amanda nodded slowly. "Then you need to stop Jessica before she destroys both our lives. How if I report her, she'll manipulate Mom into thinking I'm the villain. Mom's already weak from surgery. The stress could kill her. And if you don't report her, she'll definitely destroy your career and our future. Tyler, your mother is an adult who made the choice to commit identity fraud by putting your name on that credit card. Your sister is an adult who made the choice to steal. You're not responsible for protecting them from the consequences of their illegal actions. I knew Amanda was right, but the guilt felt overwhelming. They're the only family I have left. I understand that. But they're asking you to sacrifice everything you've worked for, including our relationship, to enable Jessica's criminal behavior. That's not what healthy families do. When I got home that night, I found 3 missed calls from Jessica and a voicemail that made my blood boil. Tyler, I hope you're not planning anything stupid. I talked to Mom today and she mentioned you seemed stressed about work. I told her that you've been having financial problems lately, and that's why you've been so cranky about family obligations. She's worried about you. It would be really unfortunate if I had to tell her that your work problems are making you consider doing something that could hurt our family. Call me back. The message was crystal clear. Jessica knew about my job situation somehow, and she was prepared to use it as another manipulation tool. She would tell Mom that my work stress was making me unstable and vindictive, framing any action I took against her as the desperate behavior of someone who was having a mental breakdown. As I sat in my small apartment looking at the life I had carefully built over the past few years, I realized Jessica wasn't just stealing money. She was systematically destroying every aspect of my existence while convincing our dying mother that I was the one causing problems. The clock was ticking. 72 hours to save my career, my relationship, and my future. But first I needed to understand exactly how deep Jessica's deception went. I spent the next day trying to find solutions. I called 3 different banks about personal loans. But my debt-to-income ratio was already too high. I researched debt consolidation companies, but they all required assets I didn't have as collateral. I even looked into bankruptcy options, but the attorney I spoke with explained that fraudulent debt couldn't simply be discharged without criminal charges being filed against Jessica first. Every path forward required me to take legal action against my sister, which would trigger her threats against our mother. That afternoon, while I was researching options online, my phone buzzed with a credit card alert. Another charge for $8,647 at a BMW dealership in Cherry Creek. I called Jessica immediately. "What did you just buy?" I demanded without any greeting. "Oh, you must have gotten the alert." I put a down payment on a beautiful white BMW convertible. It's a certified pre-owned model, only 12,000 miles. Don't worry, the monthly payments are only $650. Jessica, I'm about to lose my job because of the debt you've already created. You have to stop spending. Actually, Tyler, I've been thinking about our conversation the other day, and I realize you've been approaching the situation all wrong. Instead of complaining about money, you should be looking for ways to increase your income. What are you talking about? I mean, maybe your current job just isn't good enough anymore. Maybe you need to find something that pays more. I hear tech companies in California are desperate for people with your skills. The suggestion was absurd. I can't just move to California and start over. I have a life here, a girlfriend, a career track I've been building. See, that's the problem with your thinking. You're so attached to your comfortable little life that you can't see the bigger picture. Family requires sacrifice, Tyler. Before I could respond, she continued. Oh, and speaking of family, I went to visit Mom this afternoon. She's still recovering well, but she seems really worried about you. She mentioned that you've been acting strange lately, and she's concerned that work stress is affecting your mental health. I haven't been acting strange. I've been trying to deal with the financial crisis you created. That's not how Mom sees it. From her perspective, you've become obsessed with money, and you're taking your work problems out on family members. She asked me if I thought you might need professional help. I felt trapped in an impossible situation. Every conversation with Jessica led to more manipulation and threats. What do you want from me? I want you to accept reality. The credit card debt exists whether you like it or not. Your name is on the account, so legally you're responsible for it. You can either handle this like a mature adult, or you can keep having emotional outbursts that upset our sick mother. My emotional outbursts. You're the one who's stealing money and threatening our family. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm protecting Mom from unnecessary stress while she recovers from major surgery. If you want to make this situation harder on her, that's your choice, but don't blame me for the consequences. After hanging up, I realized Jessica's strategy had become even more sophisticated. She wasn't just manipulating our mother, she was creating a narrative where any resistance from me would be interpreted as mental instability brought on by work stress. That evening, Amanda came over to cook dinner and help me think through options. We were chopping vegetables in my small kitchen when she noticed my hands shaking. "Tyler, you look terrible. When's the last time you slept?" "I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I think about losing my job, losing our savings, losing everything we've planned together." Amanda set down her knife and turned to face me completely. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Are you planning to just give in to Jessica's demands? Are you going to let her keep spending our money while you make minimum payments for the next 20 years? The question hit me hard because I hadn't really considered the long-term implications. If I keep making minimum payments on this debt, how long would it take to pay off? We did the math together on my laptop. With interest rates and Jessica's continuing spending, the debt would take over 30 years to pay off and would cost me more than $400,000 in total payments. Our engagement would be postponed indefinitely. We would never qualify for a mortgage. We would never be able to have children or build the life we had been planning. "This isn't just about money," Amanda said quietly. "This is about whether you're going to let your sister control your entire future. But if I fight back, she'll hurt Mom, and Mom's already so weak. Tyler, your mother, committed identity fraud. She put your name on a credit card without your consent and gave someone else access to spend money in your name. That's a crime regardless of her medical condition." "I know, but what you think protecting criminals makes you a good son. You think enabling theft makes you a loving brother." Amanda's words stung, but I knew she was right. I had been so focused on avoiding conflict that I hadn't considered the message my passivity was sending to Jessica. By not fighting back, I was essentially telling her that she could do anything she wanted as long as she threatened to upset our mother. The next morning, I woke up to another credit card alert. This time, Jessica had spent $4,200 at a jewelry store in Aspen. When I called the store, they confirmed she had purchased a diamond tennis bracelet and matching earrings. I drove straight to Mom's apartment complex, a rundown building near the airport that I had never visited before. The contrast between Jessica's luxury lifestyle and Mom's humble living situation was jarring. Mom answered the door in a faded bathrobe, looking tired but happy to see me. "Tyler, what a nice surprise. Come in, come in." The apartment was tiny, maybe 600 square feet, with worn furniture and peeling wallpaper. Medical bills were stacked on the kitchen table next to prescription bottles and get-well cards. I felt guilty for not knowing how much our family's financial situation had deteriorated. "Mom, we need to talk about Jessica's spending. She bought a car yesterday and jewelry today. The debt is getting out of control." Mom's face immediately shifted to worry. "Oh, honey, Jessica told me you might say something like this. She's concerned that your work stress is making you paranoid about family finances." "Paranoid, Mom. She's spent over $125,000 in 3 months. Jessica explained that to me. She said you're exaggerating the amounts to make her look bad because you're angry about having to help with my medical expenses." I pulled out my phone and showed Mom the credit card statements, but she barely looked at them. "Tyler, these numbers don't mean anything to me. I don't understand credit cards and banking. Jessica handles all that complicated financial stuff now." "Mom, that's exactly the problem. Jessica is handling financial stuff with my name and credit, and she's destroying my future in the process." Before Mom could respond, Jessica walked in using her key. She was carrying shopping bags and looked perfectly composed, like someone who had never done anything wrong in her life. Tyler, I'm surprised to see you here. I hope you're not upsetting Mom with more talk about money. I'm trying to explain to Mom that your spending is about to cost me my job. Jessica sat down next to Mom and took her hand gently. Mom, this is exactly what I was worried about. Tyler's work stress is making him blame family members for his problems instead of taking responsibility for his own choices. What choices I never chose to take on this debt? You chose to co-sign for Mom's credit card. You chose to give family members access to help during a medical emergency. And now you're choosing to make Mom feel guilty about her surgery because you're having trouble managing money. The way Jessica twisted every fact to support her narrative was masterful and terrifying. She made it sound like I had willingly participated in everything, while simultaneously painting me as someone who was becoming mentally unstable under pressure. Tyler, Mom said softly, maybe you should talk to someone about stress management. Your father used to get overwhelmed with work sometimes, and it made him say things he didn't mean. As I left Mom's apartment, I realized that Jessica had won another round. She had successfully convinced our mother that I was having mental health problems brought on by work stress, which meant any future actions I took could be dismissed as the irrational behavior of someone who wasn't thinking clearly. But more importantly, I understood that Jessica wasn't going to stop. She had found a perfect setup where she could spend unlimited money while making me responsible for payments, and she could neutralize any resistance by claiming I was mentally unstable. The 72-hour deadline for my job was approaching, and Jessica's spending was accelerating. I had to choose between destroying my career or destroying my relationship with our dying mother. Jessica had engineered a situation where I couldn't win. Unless I could find evidence that would expose her true nature to Mom before she convinced everyone I had lost my mind. With only 18 hours left before my work deadline, I knew I needed help. I called Amanda and asked her to meet me at a 24-hour diner near the hospital. She arrived looking concerned but determined, wearing scrubs from her night shift. I've been thinking about everything you told me, she said, as we sat in a corner booth. Jessica's behavior isn't just greedy or irresponsible, it's systematic and calculated. She's running some kind of operation. What do you mean? Think about it. She's living in an expensive apartment on a part-time yoga instructor salary. She's making massive purchases without any apparent source of income. And she's manipulating your mother with surgical precision. People don't develop those skills overnight. Amanda was right. Jessica's manipulation techniques were too sophisticated for someone who was just being selfish about money. So what are you suggesting? I think we need to investigate her activities like she's a criminal suspect, because that's probably what she is. We started by researching Jessica's living situation. The luxury apartment building required a credit check and proof of income 3 times the monthly rent. The rent alone was $4,000 per month, which meant Jessica would need to prove annual income of at least $144,000. There's no way a part-time yoga instructor makes that much money, Amanda said. So either she lied on her application, or she has income sources she's not telling anyone about. Next, we looked up Jessica's social media profiles going back 6 months. Before Mom's surgery, Jessica had been posting complaints about being broke, asking friends for small loans, and working extra shifts teaching yoga to struggling mothers in community centers. But starting 3 months ago, right around the time Mom got the premium credit card, Jessica's lifestyle had dramatically changed. Expensive restaurants, designer clothing, weekend trips to resort towns, professional manicures and spa treatments. The transformation was too sudden and dramatic to be explained by normal income changes. Amanda looked at this post from 8 weeks ago. She's at some kind of medical conference in Colorado Springs. Why would a yoga instructor be at a medical conference? Amanda studied the photo more carefully. That's not a medical conference. That's the Rocky Mountain Pain Management Symposium. I recognize the banners from when our hospital sent representatives last year. What kind of people attend pain management conferences? One ma'am. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and unfortunately people who are trying to learn about prescription drug markets. A chill ran down my spine. You think Jessica is involved in prescription drug dealing? I think we need to find out, and I think we need to check on your mother's medication situation. We drove to Mom's apartment complex at 2 in the morning. I used my emergency key to let us in quietly. Mom was sleeping peacefully in her bedroom, her breathing steady and regular. Amanda and I went to the kitchen, where Mom kept her prescription bottles. Amanda examined each bottle carefully, checking pill counts against prescription dates. Tyler, this is really bad. Your mother should have 60 pills of OxyContin left based on when this was filled, but there are only 12 pills in the bottle. Maybe she's been taking more because of pain. No, look at this. Amanda showed me another bottle. This is lorazepam for anxiety. Same thing. Way too many pills missing for the time frame. And look at this bottle of tramadol. It should be almost full, but there are maybe 10 pills left. So Jessica is stealing Mom's pain medication. It's worse than that. Amanda opened one of the pill bottles and shook a few pills into her palm. Look at these pills, Tyler. They're the wrong color and shape for OxyContin. Someone has been replacing the real medication with over-the-counter pain relievers. The implications hit me like a physical blow. That's why Mom's recovery has been so slow. She's been taking Advil instead of prescription pain medication. And that's probably why she's been so tired and confused. Pain interferes with healing and cognitive function. Jessica hasn't just been stealing from you. She's been torturing your mother. We spent the next 2 hours documenting everything. Amanda took photos of the pill bottles, the incorrect medications, and the prescription labels. We found financial documents scattered around Mom's apartment, and Amanda noticed something I had missed. Tyler, look at these signatures on the credit card applications. I compared the signatures on multiple documents. Some looked like Mom's natural handwriting, but others were clearly forged. The pen pressure was different. The letter formations were inconsistent, and several signatures showed signs of someone trying to copy another person's writing style. Jessica has been forging Mom's signature on financial documents. That's identity theft and prescription drug fraud. Your sister isn't just stealing money. She's running a full-scale criminal operation using your mother as a cover. As dawn approached, we gathered all our evidence and prepared to leave. But as we reached the front door, Amanda grabbed my arm. Tyler, listen. In the distance, we could hear a car pulling into the parking lot with music playing softly. Through the window, we saw Jessica's new BMW convertible. She was returning from somewhere at 5:30 in the morning, and she wasn't alone. A man in his 30s got out of the passenger seat, and they shared what looked like a business transaction. He handed her an envelope, and she gave him a small plastic bag. We need to get out of here, Amanda whispered. But as we tried to leave through the back door, we heard Jessica's key in the front lock. We were trapped in Mom's apartment while Jessica was about to discover us with evidence of her crimes. Amanda pulled me into the bathroom, and we locked the door just as we heard Jessica enter the apartment. Through the thin walls, we could hear her moving around the kitchen, probably checking on her pill inventory. Mom, Jessica called softly. Are you awake? We heard Mom's groggy voice from the bedroom. Jessica, what time is it? It's early, Mom. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd come check on you and bring you fresh groceries. That's so sweet of you, honey. Amanda and I waited in the bathroom for 20 minutes while Jessica went through her routine of checking on Mom, organizing medication, and probably restocking her stolen prescription drugs. Finally, we heard her leave through the front door. When we emerged from our hiding spot, Amanda was shaking. Tyler, your sister isn't just a thief. She's dangerous. She's running prescription drugs, forging legal documents, and using your dying mother as cover for criminal activities. And she's convinced Mom that I'm the one with mental health problems. We have evidence now. Photos, documentation, witness testimony. We can prove that she's been systematically defrauding your family while endangering your mother's health. But if I report her, she'll still convince Mom that I'm the villain. Amanda looked at me seriously. Tyler, your mother is being poisoned. Jessica is stealing her pain medication and replacing it with ineffective substitutes. Your mother's slow recovery isn't just bad luck, it's the result of medical neglect. If you don't stop Jessica, she might kill your mother just to cover up her other crimes. As we drove back to my apartment, I realized the situation had moved far beyond credit card fraud. Jessica wasn't just stealing money, she was running criminal operations that could put her in federal prison for decades. And she was using our mother's medical condition as both a cover story and a weapon to maintain control over the entire family. But most importantly, I understood that Jessica's threats to upset Mom were actually secondary to a much more serious problem. If Jessica felt cornered, she might escalate her criminal behavior in ways that could permanently destroy our family. I had less than 12 hours before my work deadline, and I was sitting on evidence of crimes that could send my sister to prison for 20 years. The question wasn't whether to report her anymore. The question was how to protect Mom from Jessica's retaliation when she realized her criminal empire was collapsing. At 8 in the morning, I called the FBI field office in Denver. The automated system transferred me through several departments before connecting me with Agent Rebecca Santana from the Financial Crimes Division. Agent Santana had a professional, no-nonsense tone that immediately made me feel like I was finally talking to someone who could help. Mr. Johnson, thank you for calling. Based on what you've described, it sounds like you're dealing with identity theft, prescription drug trafficking, and elder abuse. These are serious federal crimes. What are my options? First, I need you to understand that once we open an investigation, the process moves quickly. If your sister is trafficking prescription drugs, she's likely part of a larger network that we've been monitoring. Your evidence could be the key to shutting down multiple criminal operations. Agent Santana explained that prescription drug trafficking was a federal offense that carried sentences of 10 to 20 years in prison. Identity theft and elder abuse added additional charges that could extend Jessica's potential sentence even further. The good news is that victims of identity theft are protected from financial liability once criminal charges are filed. If we can prove your sister committed fraud using your identity, the credit card debt becomes her legal responsibility, not yours. What about my mother? My sister has been threatening to upset her if I report the crimes. Mr. Johnson, your mother is currently a victim of elder abuse and medical neglect. Our investigation would likely save her life, not endanger it. Agent Santana asked me to bring all evidence to the FBI office at 10 that morning. She also requested that I wear a recording device during any future conversations with Jessica, since suspects often confess to additional crimes when confronted by family members. I called my supervisor, Marcus, and explained that I was working with federal agents to resolve the debt situation. He agreed to extend my deadline by 24 hours, giving me time to see if criminal charges would resolve the financial liability issue. Amanda met me at the FBI office, where we spent 2 hours going through evidence with Agent Santana and her partner, Agent Michael Torres. They were particularly interested in the prescription drug theft and forgery evidence. This matches patterns we've seen in other cases, Agent Torres explained. Typically, someone gains access to prescription medications through a vulnerable family member, then sells the drugs while replacing them with over-the-counter substitutes. It's particularly common when the victim is elderly or recovering from major surgery. Agent Santana showed us surveillance photos from a case they had been building. Your sister appears in several of these photos meeting with known drug dealers. We've been trying to identify her for 3 months. I stared at the photos in shock. Jessica was clearly visible, meeting with various men in parking lots, restaurants, and hotel lobbies. The meetings looked professional and businesslike. These weren't casual social encounters. How long has she been doing this? Based on our surveillance, at least 6 months, probably longer. Agent Santana fitted me with a digital recording device and coached me on how to get Jessica to discuss her activities without arousing suspicion. The plan was for me to call Jessica and arrange a meeting where I would supposedly agree to her demands about accepting financial responsibility for the debt. I called Jessica from my cell phone while the FBI agents monitored the conversation. Tyler, I'm surprised to hear from you. I thought you were still having your emotional breakdown about money. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said. You're right that fighting this situation isn't helping anyone. I want to discuss terms for moving forward. Terms, you make it sound like a business negotiation. Maybe it should be. You have something I need, peace in our family. I have something you need, financial responsibility for the debt. Maybe we can work out an arrangement. Jessica was quiet for a moment, probably trying to determine if this was some kind of trap. What kind of arrangement? I'll take full responsibility for the credit card payments if you agree to stop making new charges. I also want to understand exactly how much money we're talking about so I can plan accordingly. I think that's very mature of you, Tyler. Why don't we meet for lunch at that Italian place in Cherry Creek? We can go over everything like civilized adults. Perfect, 1 o'clock. I'll see you there. After hanging up, Agent Santana reviewed the recording equipment one more time. Remember, your goal is to get her to explain her activities and admit to specific crimes. Don't accuse her directly. Just let her talk. The restaurant was busy enough to provide cover, but quiet enough for clear recording. Jessica arrived wearing an expensive dress and jewelry I had never seen before. She looked relaxed and confident, like someone who had finally gotten what she wanted. Tyler, I'm so glad you've decided to be reasonable about this situation. Family cooperation is so much healthier than conflict. I agree, but I need to understand the full scope of what I'm taking responsibility for. The credit card debt is obviously significant, but you mentioned finding new income sources. I'm curious how you've been managing your own expenses. Jessica smiled proudly. I've been really resourceful about creating multiple income streams. The yoga classes were never going to pay enough to support the lifestyle I deserve. What other income streams? Well, I discovered that Mom's prescription medications are actually quite valuable. She was prescribed way more pills than she actually needs for pain management, so I've been helping her manage her medication more efficiently. What do you mean by efficiently? I mean, she doesn't need 60 OxyContin pills per month to manage surgical recovery. 20 pills is plenty if she supplements with over-the-counter alternatives. That leaves 40 pills that can be redirected to people who really need them. I felt sick listening to her casual description of stealing medication from our dying mother. Redirected to who? There are people who suffer from chronic pain but can't afford proper medical care. I've been able to help them access medication while earning some income to support myself during this difficult time with Mom's recovery. Jessica was describing prescription drug dealing as though she was running a charity organization for underserved patients. How much income are we talking about? Between the medication management and some other financial consulting I've been doing, I'm clearing about $15,000 per month. Financial consulting, helping people access credit and banking services they wouldn't normally qualify for. There are a lot of elderly people with excellent credit who don't understand how to leverage their financial assets effectively. The recording device was capturing Jessica's detailed confession to prescription drug trafficking, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. She was explaining her criminal operations as though they were legitimate business ventures. Jessica, what happens if someone discovers these income sources? Are there any legal risks? Her expression shifted slightly, the first sign that she understood we were discussing illegal activities. Tyler, are you asking these questions because you're genuinely interested in understanding my situation, or because you're planning to cause problems? I'm asking because if I'm taking responsibility for credit card debt, I need to know that you're not creating additional financial liabilities that could affect me. The only way my activities could create problems is if someone reported them to authorities. But that would require family members to choose money over loyalty, and I don't think anyone in our family would be that selfish. What if authorities found out through other means? Jessica leaned forward, her voice taking on a threatening tone. Tyler, if anyone in our family ever betrayed me to law enforcement, it would destroy Mom. The stress of having her daughter arrested while she's recovering from heart surgery would literally kill her. And whoever was responsible for that betrayal would have to live with killing their own mother. So your activities are definitely illegal. My activities are necessary for supporting our family during a crisis. The legality is irrelevant compared to family loyalty. Jessica had just confessed to multiple federal crimes while simultaneously threatening retaliation against our mother if anyone reported her. The recording would provide everything the FBI needed to arrest her and dismantle her criminal operations. But as I sat across from Jessica, watching her confidently describe how she would manipulate our mother's death if cornered, I realized she had one more surprise waiting for me. Actually, Tyler, since we're being completely honest with each other, there's something else you should know. I've already made plans for the possibility that someone might try to interfere with my income sources. What kind of plans? Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me banking screenshots. I've transferred most of Mom's retirement account and life insurance policy into offshore accounts that I control. If anything happens to my current operations, I'll simply disappear to Costa Rica where extradition is difficult and living expenses are cheap. You stole Mom's retirement money. I protected it from potential legal complications. If authorities start investigating family finances, they might freeze domestic assets. By moving the money offshore, I've ensured that Mom's medical care will continue, regardless of any legal drama that other family members might create. The scope of Jessica's criminal operation was staggering. She had systematically looted our family's finances while positioning herself to flee the country if caught. And she was using our mother's life as both a shield and a weapon to prevent anyone from stopping her. When are you planning to leave for Costa Rica? My flight is tomorrow night. I figured it would be good to take a little vacation while you get settled into handling the credit card payments. Jessica wasn't just confessing to crimes, she was announcing her escape plan. She intended to leave the country within 24 hours, taking everything she had stolen and leaving me responsible for debts that would take decades to pay off. As lunch ended, Jessica hugged me goodbye like a loving sister who was looking forward to a peaceful family relationship. Tyler, I'm so proud of you for choosing family over money. Dad would be proud too. Walking back to my car, I realized Jessica had been playing a much longer game than I understood. She had never intended to stay and face consequences for her actions. The entire conversation had been her way of saying goodbye while making sure I understood the cost of reporting her to authorities. But what Jessica didn't know was that federal agents were already in position to arrest her before she could reach the airport. Her detailed confession had given them everything they needed to seize her assets and charge her with multiple federal crimes. The question now was whether they could move fast enough to stop her from fleeing the country with our family's entire financial future. Agent Santana called me at 6 that evening with an update. Tyler, the recording you provided gave us enough evidence to obtain warrants for your sister's arrest and asset seizure. We're moving tonight. What about her flight to Costa Rica? We've been monitoring her communications since this afternoon. She's planning to leave from Denver International Airport at 11 tomorrow night. We'll arrest her when she tries to go through security. And the money she stole, we've already frozen the offshore accounts she showed you. Turns out she was using the same bank that several other prescription drug traffickers have been using. We've been working with international authorities to shut down that entire network. Agent Santana explained that Jessica's arrest would likely lead to the capture of multiple drug dealers and financial criminals. The FBI had been building a case against the prescription drug network for over a year, and Jessica's activities had given them the final pieces they needed to make arrests across 3 states. What happens to my credit card debt? Once we file criminal charges, the debt becomes evidence in a federal case. The credit card company will be required to reverse all fraudulent charges and remove negative marks from your credit report. You won't be responsible for any of the money your sister spent. The next evening, I was working late at my office when Marcus knocked on my cubicle wall. Tyler, I just got off the phone with our security department. They received documentation from the FBI proving that your debt was the result of identity theft. Your security clearance has been approved, and your promotion is effective immediately." I felt overwhelmed with relief. "Thank you for giving me extra time to resolve the situation." Actually, thank you for handling it the right way. A lot of people would have tried to hide financial problems or avoid responsibility. You faced it head on and worked with law enforcement to protect both yourself and other potential victims. At 11:30 that night, I received a text from Agent Santana. "Jessica Johnson arrested at DIA. Found with forged passport, $50,000 cash, and detailed plans for establishing identity in Costa Rica. Case closed." The next morning, I drove to Presbyterian St. Joseph Hospital to visit Mom. I found her sitting up in bed, looking more alert and energetic than she had in weeks. The nursing staff had been giving her proper pain medication since the FBI had provided replacement prescriptions for the pills Jessica had stolen. "Tyler, I owe you an enormous apology," Mom said as soon as I sat down. The FBI agents explained everything Jessica was doing. I had no idea she was stealing my medication or forging my signatures. "Mom, you were recovering from major surgery. You couldn't have known what she was planning. But I should have listened to you when you tried to tell me something was wrong. I let Jessica convince me that you were having problems instead of recognizing that she was the one causing problems." Mom's doctor had explained that the replacement of her prescription pain medication with over-the-counter pills had significantly slowed her recovery and contributed to the confusion and weakness she had been experiencing. With proper medication, her healing process accelerated dramatically. "The FBI also told me that Jessica had stolen most of my retirement savings," Mom continued. "They said you're the reason they were able to recover the money before she left the country. I just did what I had to do to protect our family." "No, Tyler. You did what I should have done when I first realized Jessica was stealing. You chose to protect the truth instead of enabling lies." Over the following weeks, the legal process moved quickly. Jessica was charged with prescription drug trafficking, identity theft, elder abuse wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The federal prosecutor explained that she faced 15 to 20 years in prison, even with a plea bargain. The credit card company reversed all fraudulent charges and paid penalties to both me and Mom for the identity theft. My credit score was fully restored, and I received written confirmation that no negative information would remain on my credit report. More importantly, the FBI's asset seizure recovered not only Mom's retirement savings but also additional money Jessica had stolen from other elderly victims. Mom received over $200,000 in recovered funds, enough to secure high-quality medical care and comfortable living arrangements for the rest of her life. 3 months later, Amanda and I were house hunting in a quiet neighborhood near downtown Denver. With my promotion, clean credit, and the recovery of our savings, we were able to qualify for our dream home with a reasonable mortgage payment. "It's strange how everything worked out," Amanda said as we walked through a beautiful 3-bedroom house with a large backyard. 6 months ago, Jessica's theft almost destroyed your career and our relationship. Now we're in a better position than we ever imagined. I think the difference is that we stopped allowing other people's bad choices to control our future," I replied. Mom moved into a beautiful assisted living facility that specialized in cardiac recovery care. She had her own apartment with full medical support, social activities with other residents, and regular visits from family members who actually cared about her well-being rather than her financial assets. "I'm proud of the man you've become," Mom told me during one of our weekly visits. "Your father would have been proud too. You protected our family by holding people accountable instead of making excuses for bad behavior." I learned that protecting people sometimes means refusing to enable them. That's exactly right. I thought I was being a good mother by covering for Jessica's problems, but I was actually helping her become a criminal. Real love requires honesty, even when honesty is painful. Jessica's trial made local news because of the scope of her criminal operations. The prosecution proved she had been stealing from at least 12 elderly victims while running prescription drugs to dealers across Colorado and Wyoming. Her defense attorney argued for leniency based on family medical stress, but the judge noted that Jessica had systematically exploited vulnerable people during their most difficult moments. Jessica Johnson showed no remorse for her crimes and demonstrated sophisticated planning in her criminal activities, the judge said during sentencing. She stole medication from her own dying mother while convincing the family that her brother was mentally unstable. This level of manipulation and callousness toward vulnerable victims requires significant incarceration. Jessica received 18 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole before serving at least 12 years. She would be in her 50s before she could potentially be released. A year later, Amanda and I got married in a small ceremony in the backyard of our new home. Mom walked me down the aisle healthy and strong after her full recovery. My coworkers from Cyber Defense Solutions attended, along with Amanda's colleagues from the hospital and a few close friends who had supported us through the difficult period. During my wedding speech, I talked about the importance of choosing people who share your values rather than people who share your genetics. Family isn't just about blood relationships, I said, looking at Amanda and then at Mom. Family is about people who support each other's growth, hold each other accountable, and choose love over convenience even when it's difficult. Agent Santana attended the wedding as our guest, having become a friend during the investigation and trial process. Your case helped us shut down one of the largest prescription drug trafficking rings in the Rocky Mountain region, she told us. Dozens of elderly victims got their lives back because you chose to do the right thing instead of the easy thing. 6 months after the wedding, Amanda and I learned we were expecting our first child. We decided to name the baby Patricia if it was a girl, after Mom, who had taught us that it's never too late to choose truth over comfort. As I sit here today writing this story, I understand that the most important lesson from our experience wasn't about money or credit cards or even criminal justice. The most important lesson was about the difference between love and enabling. I thought I was protecting my family by accepting responsibility for Jessica's actions, but I was actually enabling her to hurt more people. Real love requires boundaries, honesty, and the courage to hold people accountable for their choices. Jessica chose to see our mother's medical crisis as an opportunity for personal gain. She chose to steal medication from someone who was suffering. She chose to manipulate family relationships to cover her criminal activities. And she chose to threaten our mother's health when those crimes were discovered. I chose to prioritize truth over family peace protection, over convenience, and justice over comfort. Those choices saved our family's financial future, ended Jessica's criminal career, and ultimately protected our mother from further abuse. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst impulses. Sometimes protecting your family means calling the police on family members. And sometimes the only way to preserve genuine relationships is to end toxic ones. The money was never really the issue. The issue was whether we would choose to live in truth or participate in lies, whether we would protect each other from consequences or help each other grow through accountability. I'm grateful every day that we chose truth, even when truth was painful. Because now we have a family built on genuine love instead of manipulation, honest communication instead of emotional blackmail, and mutual support instead of financial exploitation. Our daughter Patricia will grow up understanding that love means wanting the best for someone, even when they don't want the best for themselves. She'll learn that family loyalty means supporting each other's growth, not covering for each other's crimes. And most importantly, she'll know that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is hold the people you love accountable for being the best versions of themselves, even when they prefer to be something else. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between family loyalty and doing what you knew was right? How do you balance protecting the people you love with holding them accountable for their actions? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and sharing it with someone who might benefit from hearing about the importance of choosing truth over comfort in family relationships. And if you want to hear more stories about finding strength during difficult family situations, make sure to subscribe for future content. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you navigate your own challenging family dynamics with wisdom and courage. Remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is the hardest thing you can do, and that real family relationships are built on truth rather than convenience. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.